Sorry about that. Someone was taking ages to turn outside and the cars were honking. Hey guys, so today I'm back with another video and I thought I would share with you guys my audiobook TBR. I distinguish my audiobook and my physical TBR because I tend to use Audible for books that I'm not quite sure how I'm going to feel about. If I have suspicions that I might not like a book, I'm more likely to use my credits on Audible to get it because then I can return it and it doesn't really cost me that much money because I'm only paying for an Audible credit every other month. So I have 26 books on this TBR and they're ranging from books I'm really interested in to things that I am not super interested in to things that I think would just be better on audio in general. It's not to say that any of these books are necessarily bad in physical format, this is just the format that I've chosen to use to hopefully listen to them, and I want to get a bunch of these off my TBR this year because some of these I've had for a really long time and I really should get to them. So here are all the audiobooks that I have on my TBR. Starting off, we have The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides, I think is how you say the author's name. I'm not entirely sure. We have The Silent Patient, and this is a thriller that came out a couple years ago. I don't really know much about this. I know that the patient in question, I think, is a woman who hasn't spoken since the death of her husband. She may or may not have killed him, I'm not entirely sure. But I've had this on my TBR for a while because I wasn't sure if I would like it. Because when it comes to mysteries, I am really picky about it, and I have seen reviews from people I trust who kind of go either way on the spectrum of liking it, and so I figured the safest thing to do would be to get it on audio and to listen to it, and that way if I don't like it, I can, return it and I don't have to spend that much money on getting the actual book. This is one of the books that I would like to get to this year because it's been on my TBR for at least 2 years now, so I want to get to this and at least see what I think of it because I've heard a lot of people say good things about this, but I've also heard a lot of people say meh things about this, so I want to try it for myself. And then we have the Jacobi Series by William Ritter. I believe there are only 4 books in this series, and I have those 4 all on audio. This is basically a supernatural take, kind of, on Sherlock. I think the main guy's name is Jacobi, and he is a detective. He deals with all kinds of supernatural things, and he has this assistant who comes along with him, and together they solve all these crimes, and that's kind of all I know about it. It had a bit of hype a few years ago, I would say like 4 years ago-ish, and I don't hear people talking about it anymore, but I'm still interested in knowing what the story is, so I would really like to get to it at some point this year as well because I have all 4 books on audio, so I might as well listen to it. And if I don't like it that much, at least they're on audio and I don't have to worry about it as much as having a physical one on my shelf. And if I do like it, I can buy the physical books for my shelf in the future. And then I have The Darkest Minds by Alexandra Bracken. This is basically like the tail end of dystopia. I have it because I still kind of want to know what the story is. I never really got on the bandwagon with this because I just kind of missed the train, and I've heard good things about it. I've heard mixed things about it. I kind of want to try it for myself, and if I don't like it, that's fine. I'm not making a commitment to the trilogy, but if I do like it, then I can get the next ones on audiobook as well. The only thing that I'm thinking about with this trilogy is literally the fact that the last book has, I think, a moon on the cover, but to me it's always looked like a banana, and I can never unsee that. That has absolutely nothing to do with me reading or listening to this trilogy, but it's what I always think about when it comes to this trilogy. So, banana cover aside, I do want to listen to this at some point because I think it had a lot of hype for something that came at the tail end of dystopia, and it did pretty well. I remember hearing a lot of good things from people in the booktube community, and it had a steady following for a really long time. I've seen some of the fandom merch around it, but other than that, I don't really know much of the story. I know that it's about kids with powers, and I know that there's a character named Ruby, I think. That's all I know, and I do want to get to this at some point. And then I have Watchers by Dean Koontz. This is not because I'm a fan of Dean Koontz in any way, it's because I was recommended this book because I'm pretty sure the narrator is a dog. It's a mystery narrated by a dog, and that's really all I need to know to put this on my list. I'm not expecting this to be the best book, and I've seen some interesting passages from Dean Koontz's work. If you follow the @MenWriteWomen Twitter, it showcases a lot of weird ways men write about women, and Dean Koontz has been featured on there quite a number of times. So I'm aware that his writing of women is not the best, and that's probably why I'm not going to enjoy it that much, but dog narrator. And then I have Merciless and Badlands by Richard Montanari. This is part of a series that I started a really long time ago. I discovered one of the books in the series like on Audible, and I decided to download it. I really enjoyed it, and it was the 8th or 9th book in the series, I think, so I went back to the beginning. I've listened to the first 2 and I want to continue on with the series. I haven't continued on with the series in about 3 years, but I do want to listen to it because I really enjoyed the books, and this is one of the few like stumbled across mysteries that I really enjoyed and enjoyed the author's work enough to continue with and actually go back to the beginning of the series of, because that's usually not the case for me in mysteries that I just stumble upon. But this one I do like a lot, mostly because I can't figure out the twists until the very end when the twist is revealed, and I like that. I like being kept on my toes, and in general I think it's a well-written series. And then we have The Drowned Girls by Loreth Ann White. This is another mystery about a detective whose old case comes back to haunt him. It's one of those books that was on Audible's like 2 books for 1 credit deal, and I always look in the mysteries for that because that's kind of the only genre I would want to listen to, really. And I saw this, it looked interesting, I downloaded it, no idea if I'm gonna like it. This isn't really one of those books that I think I'm going to continue in the series of. It is a series, and if I enjoy it, if it gets a 3 stars, I'll be happy with that. If it gets more than that, I'll be really happy. But I'm really not expecting it to be my next favorite mystery novel. And then we have Bird Box by Josh Malerman. And I think this is a great idea to listen to Bird Box instead of reading it, because the whole point of the story is that you can't see stuff. And it's based on like auditory stuff to freak you out. So I'm gonna listen to Bird Box. There's a sequel, I know, but I don't think I'm gonna ever read that or listen to it because I've heard that it's really not great and there's no point in really following up with the sequel. So I'm just gonna stick with this, and yeah, Bird Box on audio. And then I have Pachinko by Min Jin Lee, which is Japanese historical fiction. I've wanted to read this for a while, and I thought that listening to it might be a really great way to do it, because I'm hoping that if there is Japanese in the book, the narrator will speak Japanese and I'll get to hear it. And I love listening to the language of Japanese, so this is a book that I wanted to try on audio first before I committed to actually getting the physical copy, and I will get the physical copy if I enjoy it, which I think there's a good chance of me really enjoying it. I've heard a lot of really amazing things about Pachinko, so it is really high up there on my list. It's a long audiobook, but I think it will definitely be worth it. And then I have Watching You by Lisa Jewell. This is basically a story about a bunch of neighbors who watch each other and something bad happens and there are a bunch of secrets. I don't know too much about it, and I'm okay with that. I've listened to one of Lisa Jewell's other books in the past, I think it was And Then She Was Gone. Wasn't really a fan of it, but a lot of people say that her work gets a lot better, so that's why I have this on my list and I'm willing to give it a shot. The kinds of mysteries that Lisa Jewell writes aren't exactly my favorite kinds, but I'm willing to try them. And this one has a lot of really good reviews and a lot of people seem to really like it. A lot of people that I trust really seem to like it. So I'm going to try it, and hopefully I will enjoy this more than the other Lisa Jewell book that I read. I also have another book by Lisa Jewell, which is I Found You. This is about a woman who finds a man who I guess doesn't remember who he is, and another woman who is married to a guy who apparently doesn't actually exist, and she finds that out after he disappears. No idea what the book is after that. Premise sounded interesting, double perspectives, probably going to be able to figure out the twist before the book is over, but I'm going to give it a shot anyways, and I'm open to being surprised by Lisa Jewell. I'm open to having her change my mind because I would really like for that to happen. We'll see what it is. I know it sounds a little negative when I say this about mysteries, but because I've read so many in my lifetime, I've read well over 300 or 400 mysteries, it's really hard for me to be surprised now. And that's one of the reasons why I get a lot of mysteries on audiobook, because I don't want to pay money for a physical copy and have it sit on my shelf when I can just return the audiobook or delete it. So I know, yeah, it sounds bad, but this is how I use audiobooks and this is what I use Audible for, so that's just kind of what my TBR is when it comes to audiobooks. Next up I have another mystery, The Broken Girls by Simone St. James. This I have heard amazing things about. I've heard really good things about Simone St. James' work in general, and this is, I think, the first book that she published. The premise is that there were a bunch of students at this elite boarding school, and they're meant to go there to be reformed and to be taught how to be better girls and grow up a little and mature. And these 4 girls who are best friends are there together, and then one of them disappears. Several decades later, a journalist is trying to write a story on it, and she's haunted by the school because her older sister's dead body was found there, and her older sister's boyfriend was tried and convicted for the murder, but she's not entirely sure if he did it. And as she writes the story about this school, she realizes that there are a bunch of secrets. I really like settings like this. It reminds me a lot of how Truly Devious is also set at a boarding school that has a huge mystery shrouding it and is also really elite. So I think I will enjoy this. I'm crossing my fingers that I will. And if I do enjoy this, I definitely want to get a physical copy, and I also want to get a copy of Simone St. James' other book. Next, I have The Roanoke Girls by Amy Engel. I've heard really good things about this. The premise, from what I can gather, is that there is a long line of these women girls called the Roanoke Girls, and there's some kind of family curse upon them. They can either run or they will die. That's really all I know. I've heard really good things about this, but I wasn't sure about it, which is why I got it on audio. I'm hoping I will like this because some of the people I trust most when it comes to mysteries and thrillers really seem to like it, so I'm hoping that that's going to be the case for me too. And also the premise is just really interesting to me because I don't know if this has like low-key supernatural, like magical realism vibes, or like what's going on with this family. Like I want to know. So I am hopefully going to get to this year because it is one of the books I am really excited about listening to, and I think this will make for a great listening experience. Then I have Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is not something I would usually pick up. I've heard really good things about Blake Crouch's work, and especially Dark Matter. This was actually recommended to me by a friend. He really liked it, and so he thought I would, and he told me to give it a shot. Audiobook, because not sure if I'm gonna like it, but it's on my list, and I look forward to getting to it at some point because I do want to see if I'm one of those people who also likes Blake Crouch's work. Then I have The Lying Room by Nikki French. This is about a woman who has an affair and her lover gets murdered, and so she decides to scrub every trace that they were ever in a relationship or that they ever knew each other. She decides to scrub it all out of existence, and then the police show up. That's kind of all I know, and that's kind of all I want to know. One of those books that I got from the Audible 2-for-1 deal, and yeah, you kind of know the gist already. Not sure if I'm gonna like it, hence why it's on audio. Next up, I have a romance, actually. This was recommended to me by a bunch of people on Bookstagram. A lot of the people that I follow were talking about this around Christmas time. It is One Day in December by Josie Silver. The premise is that a girl in London is on a bus and she locks eyes with a man who is outside of the bus, and instantly she knows that he is the one. So she spends a whole year looking for him, convinced that it's fate, that they're going to meet again and that they're perfect for each other, whatever. And she can't find him. And then at a Christmas party, she gets introduced to her best friend's new boyfriend, the guy that she locked eyes with outside of the bus. And of course, it's gonna deal with the whole thing of like, is fate real? Will they, won't they? Is there something you can do to change your destiny? I'm not into romance usually, which is another reason why this is on audiobook, because I would probably not buy this for myself in physical format. If I like this, I might buy it or I might just keep the audiobook. It's one of those romances that sounds like it has a little more to it than just romance, so I'm hoping that is the case, and I'm hoping that I will like it because I did spend a credit on it. If I don't like it all that much, that's fine, but I really do want to give it a shot, and I think this will be an interesting diversion from what I usually listen to on audiobook. Next up, I have a YA mystery that's really popular, One of Us is Lying by Karen M. McManus. The premise is that 5 different people go into detention, and it's basically kind of like the Breakfast Club style detention. There's 5 people from completely different cliques in high school. They go to detention, only 4 of them make it out. The one who dies was going to release a bunch of information about everyone else in the school, and the police say that it wasn't an accident, but we don't know who killed him. I am interested in this. I've never seen The Breakfast Club, but I like mysteries like this, and I'm always interested in knowing if I can figure out who did it before it's revealed. My recent track record with YA mysteries is a lot better than it used to be. I have found ones that really work for me, and I'm hoping that Karen M. McManus' work will be one of those too, because I've heard a lot of good things about her stories, I've heard a lot of good things about her books, and sometimes I want to read a mystery that isn't written by or for adults. I do sometimes want YA mysteries, and so far the only ones I've found that I really enjoyed are Sadie and the Truly Devious series, but I'm hoping that I will be able to add this trilogy series, I'm not really sure, to the mix as well, and I am looking forward to listening to this. Next up, I have Girls with Sharp Sticks by Suzanne Young. Suzanne Young wrote another YA dystopian series a while back called The Program. That series dealt with what it would be like to control emotions, I think. This book, however, is about these girls who are at an academy where they're taught how to be the most beautiful, perfect, educated girls that you could ever want. They can grow perfect gardens, they can make perfect meals, all that. And then the main character realizes that their life might not be exactly what they're told it is. And she and her friends go digging, and of course there's going to be a whole like fight the big bad guy, like fight the man kind of thing. I'm interested in what this is. I haven't really gotten into dystopian much lately because the world right now is kind of a dystopian anyway, so I don't really need to read about it. But I am interested in the premise of this. It might not end up being a trilogy or a series that I follow, but I'm willing to give the first book a shot. I think it's a very interesting take on feminism in dystopia, so I want to give it a try. And lastly, I have Hangman by Jack Heath. This is about a guy who consults for the FBI, and they don't like consulting with him because he's a sociopath. But when they have a case that they can't solve, they bring this guy in, and he might have met his match with the person he's trying to find. Not much else to say about this. I like reading mysteries where it's a battle of the geniuses. In general, I like plots that are the battle of geniuses because I think that's really interesting and really fun. And especially when you have something that involves crime or involving sociopathy or psychopathy, that makes things a lot more interesting. So I'm hoping I will enjoy this. And if I don't, well, that's okay with me. I lied, that's totally not the end. I also have The Feather Thief by Kirk Wallace Johnson. This is a true crime nonfiction about a guy who steals a bunch of valuable birds and feathers, I think. I don't really know much about it beyond that, but it's very interesting. I was recommended to this from a podcast that I used to listen to, and I think it'd be really interesting to kind of follow and learn about a true crime event that doesn't revolve around murder, because I'm pretty sure this is just about a really well done and kind of weird heist. So I'm looking forward to listening to it, and I hope I really enjoy it. Then I have Becoming by Michelle Obama. She narrates it. Why wouldn't I want to listen to her narrate it? I really don't have much explanation beyond that. I just really want to listen to her tell me a story for 19 hours, and I'm excited to get to this because my roommate has read and loved this book, and so has one of my other friends, and honestly, I love Michelle Obama, so if she's gonna read to me for 19 hours, I'm totally cool with that. Now, what is actually the last book on my TBR is also probably the longest book on my audiobook TBR, A Promised Land by Barack Obama. Michelle's audiobook is 19 hours. Barack's is 29 hours. Yeah, it's gonna take me a while to get through that one, but I do want to listen to it, and I'm interested in hearing how he talks about his presidency and how things went for him, and especially knowing that he wrote this after Michelle wrote hers, I'm interested in seeing the comparison between their writing and their memoirs. So that is actually the last book that I have on my audiobook TBR. I hope you enjoyed getting to know what kind of books I listen to on audiobook. This was an interesting one for me to film because I didn't actually remember all the books that I had on here, so yeah. I would love to know the role audiobooks play a part in your reading, and if you have any audiobooks that you really want to get to this year. That's all I have for this video. I will see you guys in a new one next Saturday. Bye!